Hello, and welcome to another post-council meeting news conference. We do this after every meeting of the Marshfield Common Council to get you caught up on what the discussions were, what the items were on the docket, what was decided, and how it might affect your life as a citizen of the community of Marshfield. So today I'll be talking about two meetings, one very briefly, but then the second one at greater length. The brief one is the budget meeting from October 24th. I just want to touch on the fact that it was our second budget meeting with the council. Got a little bit more in depth into some of the items that are proposed for 2023, but no decisions were made. The next meeting will be held on Tuesday, November 1st at 6 o'clock or after the Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee meeting if that runs a little bit long. Still time for you as a resident to weigh in, to make your views known to the council, the mayor, to me. Our email addresses and phone numbers are out there. Certainly look us up on the website and find a way to connect with us. We want to know what you're thinking about the way we tax and spend, some of the different items on the list for this coming year. The proposed agenda, or the proposed budget, I should say, is out there on the city's website. So please go check us out at cityofmarshfield.com, and you'll be able to to connect with us. And so we'd like to have you know what's going on and be able to participate in that. Anyway, the main meeting was held on October 25th, and I'll be reporting on that. Early on in the meeting, I just mentioned that there was an issue about whether or not the third budget meeting would include people from the different groups that are looking for money from the city. Sometimes people that are non-government organizations are looking for some funding assistance, and the community has received that from the council in the past. So we'll probably be having them come and speak and answer any questions about their proposals for the 2023 budget. Going on from there, getting into the consent agenda, several things were approved, including an RFP for professional services for the continued redevelopment of Brain Park. I think Tom Laux, our communications director, and I have talked in previous conversations about the effort that's being made to upgrade Brain Park over to the east of Peach on the east side of the community. And good plans are coming together, looking for some consulting help to assist us in that effort. And that's what that's about. And the council gave it a blessing for that to move forward. Also, the 2023 to 2025 asphalt paving list has been approved by the council. This is where in the next 3 years you can find out by looking at the list, is your street being proposed for being repaved? We have asphalt mill and overlay where we oftentimes grind up the existing surface, lay it back down with a new layer of asphalt to give you a good driving surface for a while to come. And so you'll be able to check that out and find out whether your street or streets in your neighborhood are being considered for being done in the next 3 years. Those are the main things I would touch on from the consent agenda. That's where the council can approve a number of items with just one motion, which they did on Tuesday night, October 25th. Justin Casperson, the Parks and Recreation Director, and Amanda Bruce, Recreation Manager, gave a wonderful report on the 2022 season at Van de Hey Waters. It was the first full season of that aquatic center, and council wanted to know, how did it go financially and otherwise? Was it a good year? What problems did you encounter? After they gave the report, the questions kind of centered around a couple things. How many days were you open, and under what circumstance do you close? Obviously, we close when there's bad weather, there's rain, there's bad storms. Sometimes if it's really cold, which happens a few times during the summer. But Amanda Bruce, I think, did a wonderful job of addressing that, Justin as well, and how they try to be open for as many days as they possibly can. It's only open for 3 months, so we want to get the maximum use out of that beautiful facility. There were also questions about the staffing levels, whether we're able to keep up. And I think Amanda mentioned that she was able to get through 2022 with a little bit of luck and a lot of tenacity. But going forward, we're going to have to take a look at our pay rates and how our lifeguards and other pool assistants are getting paid compared to other part-time jobs in the community. I think we all know that at fast food restaurants and other places, the rate of pay for those kind of temporary jobs has increased, and we need to stay competitive. So look for conversation on that to be coming up and going back to the elected officials, I would think sometime in the next 60 to 90 days as we get ready for the 2023 season at beautiful Van de Hey Waters. And I will say, I think what Natasha Tompkins said very well last night, one of our council members, if you've never been to Van de Hey Waters yet in the first season and a half, please plan to get out there in 2023. It's an amazing facility. She thanked, and I agree with her, all the donors, all the people who work so hard to make that aquatic center a reality. We're blessed to have that in our community. Also, there was a presentation done by Zoom by Pete Fletty, our fire chief. He was attending a conference for fire officials out of town, but he was able to remotely give an update in terms of the new fire fees that are being proposed. It was talked about back in September, I believe. The hold button was put on that a little bit so that the Fire and Police Commission could weigh in too on the fees. They actually suggested maybe increasing some of them. So these are for services provided by the fire department. For example, if we make fire inspections and the people are not resolving it, whether it's a business or whatever, they're not correcting the problems and we have to keep going back out and back out, that after a couple of inspections, we really ought to be charging a fee to those property owners for the fact that they haven't resolved the deficiencies. And so we're looking at doing that on an escalating scale as they continue to perhaps not comply with the orders from the fire department. Also, false alarms. We understand that businesses and a lot of places have false fire alarms, but if you start having multiple false fire alarms and you're not taking care of it either with the equipment or something with your provider of the service, it gets kind of tiring for our staff to keep coming back out and dealing with those. It costs a lot of money for a fire crew to come out to your home. So we ought to be charging for some of those false alarms after you've had a certain number of them. These are the kind of things that are included in these fees. You'll be hearing more about them later. But the council was very supportive of implementing these for 2023. So you'll be seeing these fees producing more revenue to help fund the fire department. And if you have any questions on those as you hear about them, certainly contact the fire department or city staff, myself, for a greater explanation. Next on the agenda from the meeting of October 25th were a couple of items related to insurance. This time of year, we're always renewing our insurance policies, both with employee health insurance and also with property insurance. Now, the property insurance will come up in another month or so, but we had 3 items related to employee health insurance on the docket this past meeting. The first one is just renewing our annual policy with Security Health. They've been great to work with, and they were able to give us a 1.7% increase in our renewal, which is really good. We've done a better job at City Hall, I think, of cutting down on some of our usage of our health care. That's been great. I applaud the employees. But 1.7 is an excellent rate, so we'll be signing on for another year with Security Health Plan right here in town. The next one was dental insurance, and we've been with Delta Dental Delta Denta, if I can say it. Delta Denta, there you go, Steve, for quite a while now. And they've given us very low premium increases. For 2023, there is a 0 increase in premium. There's no increase whatsoever, not $1. So we'll stay with them for another year. The council voted unanimously to continue with Delta in 2023. And next up was the annual request for the council to allow some money to be put into employees' health savings accounts, their HSAs. Over the last few years, the deductibles have gone up, the out-of-pocket costs have gone up for employees, and a little while ago, the council decided that they would create HSAs for the employees and put a certain amount of money in each year to help offset some of the costs anyway of the higher deductibles and out-of-pocket costs in our high-deductible health plan. So the council approved that again for another year. Then we went on to a planning and community development type item. The UWSP Marshfield campus came forward with another master plan, a campus master plan. They did one back in 2017. These are good for 5 years. And the intent of a campus master plan is to really lay forward where you want to go. First of all, where are we at right now with buildings, parking, amenities, whatever, and programs in the case of the school. We have other campus master plans with the airport, the medical complex, Central Wisconsin State Fair, places like that. Planning for future growth so that city staff and officials from those particular areas, in this case the campus, know what each other is going to be doing. They know what the plans are for growth on the campus, and they can plan accordingly. So I kind of went through it with the council. Plan Commission had recommended approval. The only really interesting topic that came up, I guess, was the villas, and that's an apartment that was constructed back quite a few years ago for student housing, and it's been used very widely by students, but not to the fullest extent. So the last couple of years, they got approval from the city to take on visiting nurses, medical interns, and even non-students as well to fill that up. And so we got a report on that at the Plan Commission meeting from a couple of representatives from UWSP. And the commission did put a stipulation on there that this be annually reviewed. It's a 5-year plan, and we get a sense of how they want to grow and develop, which is not a lot of big projects planned out there in terms of building and facility upgrades, but want to make sure that we can be touching on the housing issue annually to make sure that we know where that's going. But I want to commend Michelle Bornke and the whole team from UWSP Marshfield campus for another good 5-year plan. So council approved that as well. Next on the agenda was an interesting discussion on whether or not we allow, and to what degree, non-residents to sit on our committees, our boards, our commissions. You know, our ideal scenario would be that we have people coming forward who live in the city limits and they want to be on the Economic Development Board or the Library Board or the Park Recreation and Forestry Committee. All those various committees and boards that really do a lot of the legwork in city government. But sometimes you have an issue come up where either you can't find a city resident or somebody who lives outside of the city limits might have skills and abilities and background and knowledge that really could help that particular board or committee. So kind of wrestled with it the last couple of meetings, and there was discussion the other night about maybe expanding it. Let's say that you don't live in the city limits, but you own a business downtown. You know, you've got a stake in it. You're a property tax owner in the city of Marshfield. Could you be on a board or a commission? And there's talk about would it be good for this one, but not for that one. You know, we got into the bid board, we got into the EDB, Economic Development Board, Library Board got mentioned at one point, Utilities Commission. Everyone might be a little bit different. There was definitely a desire to see a Utilities Commission member be allowed to be living outside the city limits, one of the members, one of the 5, because there's a service area that utilities provide electric and water for that goes beyond the city limits. I mean, Marshfield Utilities services customers in the surrounding towns, in the village of Hewitt, I believe, areas like that, so that they could have a voice in, you know, the things that go on there, like talking about rate increases and other things that come up in those meetings. So what's going to happen now, they did approve, the council did, having the city attorney, Harold Wolfgram, draw up an ordinance that will come to their next meeting on November 8th for first reading. Remember, an ordinance has to have 2 readings. And that will be to discuss possibly some of the changes that were talked about that night, giving a little bit more latitude, a little bit more grace to allow non-residents to serve on our committees and commissions. Next up was something that was brought forward by Council Member Adam Fisher a couple weeks earlier under items for future agendas, and that is to take a look at the city's org chart, as we call it, the organizational chart. That's what lays out the structure of the city. In other words, you know, it's got the mayor, and it's got me as city administrator, all the department heads, who's under what department, you know, what falls under public works. So that's engineering and streets and wastewater. It lays out the whole structure of how we operate. And what Adam was saying, I think, kind of paraphrasing a little bit, is we haven't looked at this for a long time. Is there a way that we can improve ourselves, make better efficiency? Maybe, you know, it was mentioned that do I oversee too many departments? Maybe should we look at reducing the number of direct reports I have as city administrator? What about other functions? Do they belong merged together or not? So what came out of that is the council directed me to set up a team of people, council and staff, probably 5 to 7 people, and that we would take a look at that issue and see if, since the org chart was last updated, which has been a little while, I'm sure we do minor tweaks, but as far as a real update, it's been a while, and see if it still fits what we need to do. Does it really work for what we're trying to accomplish in an effective and efficient way? So you'll be hearing more about that in the next few weeks and beyond as this group gets together and looks at ideas for possibly modifying the org chart. We also had Rachel Stankowski nominated or appointed by the mayor to a library position, a vacant at-large position that Jamie Henderson had stepped aside from. We want to thank Jamie for her service on the library board. We want to thank all of our volunteers, all the many people who tirelessly work on these boards and committees and commissions for no pay, no awards, no fanfare, no ticker tape parade or whatever. But they do a lot of the legwork, like I said before, to look at issues, and they ultimately bring forward to like the Finance, Budget, and Personnel Committee or the Board of Public Works, and even up to the council, ideas for expenditures that might improve our city or new policies or whatever. And so this is a request to have Rachel Stankowski join the library board. It was put forward by Mayor Lois Teestrake, not voted on that night. It'll be back on Tuesday, November 8th for final action. That's it for the open session. We had 2 closed session items. I think you know from these past reports that I really can't talk a lot about closed session. Again, the reason we can go into closed session is not just because we want to, but because state law allows us to if we're negotiating contracts or talking about lawsuits or whatever, that we really have the right to be separated from the open meeting. And of the 2 we had last night, I can touch on real briefly. One is a possible sale of city property in TIF District 13. It's an industrial type property, and we have some people interested, a couple of different parties. So we're talking about how to work that out, and ultimately perhaps a sale might come from that. We'll see, but again, the premise is we can't be negotiating or having those kind of conversations in public as we talk about how that might work out. And then the second one had to do with the clinic contracts, we have 5 contracts with Marshfield Clinic. We've had them for a number of years now, and they have to do with transport services in a facility. You might take somebody, pick them up and take them to the Neilsville Hospital or whatever for the clinic. They also have to do with intercept services, advanced life support systems, and those kind of things. So we've had a great working relationship with the clinic, but I hit the pause button a little bit earlier back in June. It had been a while since we reviewed these contracts to see if they're meeting our needs as far as covering our costs and those sorts of things. So the council heard from our finance and EMS staff, talked a little bit about it, and we'll be going back to the clinic sometime soon to discuss the renewal of those contracts and what a renewal agreement might look like. And that's really as far as I can go at this point. But we do really value our relationship with Marshfield Clinic, and we look forward to continuing that in the future. So that's all I have for you today from the October 25th council meeting. I want to thank you for tuning in, and I thank you for all the episodes of this that you've seen as we bring you the post-council meeting news conference. Again, we do it after every meeting of the Marshfield Common Council. So on behalf of the council, the mayor, and city staff, this is Steve Barg, City Administrator, saying thank you for watching.